Welcome everybody to the 2020 UQ Ventures ilab Accelerator pitch event. We are excited to be here tonight. Tonight we will be hearing from cutting edge innovators from our latest cohort of startup entrepreneurs, from rockets to social enterprise to health and wellbeing. I am Sam, CEO and founder of Parent TV, and later I'll be joined by Ran, CEO and founder of Haystack. We are the entrepreneurs in residence here at the University of Queensland, and we will also be your MCs for this evening. For the past 6 months, we have been mentoring and supporting the teams that you will see pitching tonight. And we are very excited. They have worked very hard to get here tonight for you to see that. We would love to see across all of our socials tonight, you guys making some noise about this amazing event. You can hashtag ilab2020 to help make some noise and also follow us at UQ Ventures. Now, let's move on to the main event. First of all, to get us underway, I'd like to welcome Dr. Jessica Gallagher, Pro Vice Chancellor of Global Engagement and Entrepreneurship at the University of Queensland.
Thanks so much, Sam. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new look ilab Accelerator Pitch Night. This is a little different from our previous pitch events, but challenges require creative solutions, and our Ventures team has certainly risen to the challenge. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which UQ operates. I pay respects to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country and recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. This year has certainly raised the bar on disruption. From the terrible devastation of the bushfires, to the droughts and floods, to the global pandemic, 2020 has shown just how much and how quickly our world can change. These challenges highlight the importance of having the knowledge, technology and skills to respond quickly and effectively, and how essential it is to be adaptable, resilient and be willing to work together to make a difference. At the University of Queensland, we have a clear vision of knowledge leadership for a better world, and our role in supporting entrepreneurs and innovators has never been more vital. We're very proud of the work being done by Professor Paul Young and his team in the pursuit of the COVID-19 vaccine, and in all of our community of innovators who are active in a range of community and industry efforts to fight this pandemic. We have a strong commitment to building our hub of innovators, leaders and entrepreneurial minds who accelerate ideas to impact. And that's why I'm so pleased to welcome you here this evening for the ilab Accelerator pitch event. This evening, you'll have an opportunity to take an in-depth look at our ilab Accelerator startups, learning more about our founders and the journeys behind their incredible ideas. We're delighted to have a fantastic virtual panel of experts supporting this process and welcome Leanne Kemp, Luca Neer and Carl Hartman. We appreciate their time and expertise in putting our startups through their paces this evening. From retail tech to spacecraft propulsion, health and wellbeing, our startups are definitely focused on building a better tomorrow. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of our incredible founders for completing an already rigorous program in an especially tough year. Congratulations and good luck for this evening. Thank you again to everybody who's watching and for being part. Now let's let the fun begin. Over to you, Ran.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jess, and hi everyone. Welcome to ilab 2020 Pitch Night. It is great to have so many of you here, and we are able to welcome so many more than our normal audience size. I am going to try and make an entire speech without mentioning the C word even once. ilab 2020 started in a completely different and distant world all the way back in the early days of January this year. Back then, we had boot camps, alumni events, and farewell parties. Back then, one of our teams was working on making it easier for Chinese students to spend money in Australia. Back then, we thought, well, that's a big problem. I am told that the problem of Chinese students spending money in Australia is no longer a problem. But not to worry, that team is still with us pitching tonight. A bit of a pivot there, no doubt. But founders are agile and persistent. Founders understand that there is no point making excuses for a world that doesn't exist, and instead they regroup, adapt, and build products for a new world, for the new world that lies ahead. Founders also know that tomorrow there will be probably another dragon to slay. We started this cohort with 10 teams. Only 5 teams made it to the finish line. But wow, what a group they are. They say that ventures that start in recession times are far more likely to be successful, or are likely to be more successful than the ventures that are starting in the boom times. And as someone that had the chance to watch these founders at work, I understand why. So a big congratulations to all of you. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I want a big round of applause for everyone. The ilab Accelerator program adapted too, and continued the delivery of the program, and even managed to maintain our focus on healthier habits, 6:30 morning walks, and a strong bond among the founders. This work was delivered by a fantastic ilab and ventures team. Jess and Nimrod, thank you for giving the program the strongest backing Sam and I could have hoped for. To Team Ventures, who managed to make ilab, as well as an array of other programs, just seamlessly work. Thank you. I would also like to say a special thank you to Emily, our one-of-a-kind ilab manager, who is the person who really pulled the whole thing together. Thank you. And Emily, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, thank you, Ran. Sorry about that. Yes, so the ilab Accelerator is a part of UQ Ventures' broad investment in entrepreneurship. We are making important investments in creating an environment for our students, staff, researchers, and alumni to be well prepared for an unknown world where entrepreneurial mindset, one that can recognize and create new value propositions, will become increasingly important. It has been an absolute privilege watching and supporting our ilab founders for 2020. From assessing applications back in November last year to the ilab bootcamp selection process, to starting the program in January and watching them grow week by week for the last 7 months. To all of our ilab founders, remember, this isn't the last step, it's just the beginning. I'll now hand over back to Ran.
Thank you very much, Emily. Thank you, Emily. I would also like to thank, I'm going to read a few names. So Mike Avey, Anne-Marie Burko, Yotam Rosenbaum, Elaine Steed, Yuli Becker, Tom Williams, Sarah Kelly, Lou Jury, and Brian Cook. Eben Eskert, Kim Gilliam, Phil Livingston, Holly Karju, Carl Hartman, Luca Neer, and Leanne Kemp. These are just some of the 104 mentors, coaches, founders, and experts who took the time out of the day to help our ilab 2020 cohort. A big, big thank you for all of you. So, pitch night. We will shortly see and listen to 5 4-minute pitches each followed by 4 minutes Q&A session by our judges. Speaking of judges, we have 4 fantastic judges tonight. The first one is Luke Kinnear. Luke is the founder and CEO of Australia's newest unicorn company, Safety Culture. Safety Culture's mobile application, iAuditor, is the world's most widely used auditing and inspection app with over 600 million checks conducted each year. So, Luke, would you like to say a few words before we start?
Thanks, Rand. Yeah, look, it's very exciting to be part of this, and I know it's amazing the work that's gone into building these startups, and it's just incredible to see the talent and the depth and the ideas that come through the program. So it's a tribute to everyone who's participated and organised it. But I'm super excited to see what's coming tonight, and I'm sure it'll be great. So I can't wait.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Luke. Our second judge, Leanne Kemp. Leanne is Queensland's chief entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Everledger. Everledger uses blockchain technology to track high-value assets such as diamonds, art, and wine with the aim of increasing transparency and trust. Leanne, would you like to say a few words?
Hi everyone. No greater important time to be innovating right now, and what a privilege it is to connect with everyone and see the amazing, not only the spirit, but the effort that's gone into creating what is largely described as a desperate need for a new normal. So bring it on. I'm looking forward to it today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Leanne. And our third judge is Carl Hartman. Carl was the founder and CEO of Tamando, a delivery fulfillment platform, which raised more than $50 million and subsequently was successfully sold to a French multinational. Carl is now the co-founder and director of Liar's Spirit Company, producing the finest range of non-alcoholic classic spirits the world has ever seen. Welcome, Carl. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, well, it feels like a distant memory where I was doing a little gin and tonic masterclass one day with a boot camp. So, well, it's definitely changed, and probably just to echo what Luke and Leanne had both said, it's truly an interesting time, and as history has shown, out of some of these interesting times comes some amazing companies. So, a privilege to be here, and looking forward to seeing what the companies have been working on.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carl. And the fourth judge is you, the audience. Our live stream audience, you will get the chance to participate in the Q&A, ask questions, and vote for your favorite team. Our judging panel will then, at the end of the pitches, will be asked one question. The question is, if you were to invest $50,000 in one of our startups, who would be your runner-up team? Who would you award the money to, and why? And this is a question we're going to cross to each of the judges and ask them. It's also, we're going to let you, there's going to be a live poll where you, the audience, can also vote on your favorite team. The runner-up will get 1 point from each judge, and the top team will receive 3 points from each judge. Sorry about that. And at the end of these collecting the points, we will be able to work out who is the winning team. We'll then tally up the results, and we'll know who is going to win. The winner is going to actually win the $5,000 Shane Chidgzey Young Entrepreneurs Award. In the event of a tie, the audience vote is going to be the deciding vote. Shane Chidgzey is actually here with us tonight to award the prize to the winning team. So thank you, Shane, for supporting ilab, UQ, and our entrepreneurs year after year. Thank you. So without further ado, I would like to pass it on back to Sam, so enjoy the night.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to do a little bit of a second welcome for those of you who did join us a little late. We realised there was a little bit of a link mix-up, and some of you were on the one link and you got sent the other. So we're just grateful everybody is on and that you're all able to access this, because there's just about to be a few really great pitches that are going to happen. So with that in mind, the first pitch is just about to take place. And first up is Valiant Space. Now, Valiant Space is made up of 3 founders, Brian, Michael, and Andy. Andy will be pitching tonight. He is the CEO. Andy first got interested in space as a boy, waking up at 5 a.m. to watch the Thunderbirds. He has worked for Airbus as an engineer and has been a national committee member of the Australian Youth Aerospace Association for 2 years. In his spare time, he enjoys cooking, tinkering, and spending time with friends and family. Andy is an aerospace engineer who wants to see space become accessible for all. Let's give it up for Andrew.
Hi everyone, my name's Andy, I'm from Valiant Space, and we're on a journey to land payloads on the moon and return them back to Earth. Humanity has come a really long way since we first stepped foot on the moon, and to me, one of the most exciting things to happen since then was the first private lunar landing attempt. Now, after $100 million and over 8 long, hard years, I watched live as a startup sent this small spacecraft all the way out to the moon, ultimately leading to this final target landing site, which also happens to be the crash site. Despite coming so close to success, this made me realize that we need to significantly reduce the risk of many core space technologies in order to have missions like these happening more routinely. And at Valiant, we're starting our journey by focusing on one of these core technologies, and that is in-space propulsion. Now, almost every satellite uses some form of in-space propulsion, but the most common type is very high performance, but extremely toxic and dangerous. Now, imagine yourself sitting in an aircraft seat and you discover that every other passenger on board is carrying a Tupperware container full of nuclear waste in their laps. That's the reality that is faced every time a satellite is launched to space. Much like passengers on an aircraft, small satellites share their ride to space, which means you can have dozens of satellites on one launch, billions of dollars worth of value in a single rocket. And it only takes one of these to have a small fuel leak of this toxic fuel for every single mission on board to be jeopardized. We don't want this to happen. So at Valiant, we're building non-toxic, low-cost, and high-performance in-space thrusters for small to medium satellites. And we've already begun. We were the team that built Australia's first commercially developed liquid-fueled rocket engine, which allowed us to validate many of the key technologies we need for our in-space thrusters. And after speaking with many potential customers, we've identified our first 2 main segments that we will be targeting who need our thrusters desperately. And they are the small satellite constellation market and the defense satellite market. And they make up part of the total addressable market size of $4 billion in 2020, growing to $12 billion by 2030. Our journey sees us building our prototype thruster and completing it by the end of this year. Now, most space manufacturers, they build their new components, but they have a very challenging time trying to take them to space for the first time to validate that they work. Well, at Valiant, we've already agreed with Black Sky Aerospace to launch our thrusters into space by the middle of next year. Having our thrusters in space significantly reduces the risk to our customers, which means that following this, we'll be ready for shipment as early as the end of next year. And that's just phase 1. Phase 2 to 5 sees us continuing to reduce the risk on those other core technologies, ultimately leading to successfully fulfilling our vision of landing on the moon and returning back to Earth. And this is the team. Myself, Michael, and Brian, we are the founders, and we are all engineers, all pilots, and are all passionate about aerospace. And we previously founded UQ Space, which we led to win the Australian University's rocketry competition. Our advisors include Andrew Barton, who used to work for the European Space Agency and the Google Lunar X Prize, and Jason Held, who is the founder and CEO of Sabre Astronautics, Australia's longest running and most successful space startup. Today, we're asking for $500,000 of investment in the form of convertible notes to take our thrusters into space. So, if you or anyone you know wants to find more information before we close this funding round, please get in contact with me and I'm happy to provide a more detailed overview of our company. Thank you.
Okay, after this fantastic pitch, I have the whole team here. I have Andy, Michael, and Brian, and they're here to answer the judges' questions. So just a key point to the audience, this is where you can post in the chat your questions, and we have Emily that is looking at the questions, and she will post it to us, and we're going to ask that at the end as well. But we're going to start with Leanne. Leanne, do you have any questions for the Valiant Space team?
Yeah, look, everyone, great pitch, by the way, so thank you. We know the great space race is on and Australia is leading out in parts of its engineering. What I missed in the pitch was money, not just about what you want to raise and the investment you need, but what's the revenue model and where is the closest turn point on revenue? What does that look like? Is it 10 years in the making or is it somewhere closer than that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Leanne. Our business model is to be a propulsion supplier directly to satellite manufacturers. And so we're selling that at a unit cost of $100,000 approximately per thruster. And we plan to grow to 30 customers in 5 years' time. And at that point, our projected revenue is north of $50 million, which will also include other products that we plan to introduce later down the track.
Thank you.
Okay, Leanne, any other question, by the way?
Nothing else from me at the moment.
Okay, not a problem. Over to you, Luke. Do you have any questions for the Valiant Space team?
Congratulations, guys, firstly, on your progress so far. It's a very exciting area to be working in and something that you can very easily get many engineers and product people very excited. So I'm sure that recruiting talented people won't be too difficult for you. You mentioned that the market today is worth about $4 billion and growing to 12. How does that compare to, say, the last sort of 5 or 10 years? Do you have any sense of the amount of uptake that's happened recently? Like, what's the trend overall in the past 5 or 10 years to now?
Yeah, that's a good question, Luke. In the past, there used to be a real problem with getting access to space for the masses. And what we've seen recently with companies like SpaceX, they've been able to reduce the cost it takes to get to orbit, which means that tens of thousands of satellites are going to be launched in the next 10 years. And when you compare that to the past, that's a significant growth. And given that every single satellite there, almost all of them is going to need some form of in-space propulsion, our thrusters are going to be able to cater for that, and we're going to be in the market at the right time.
And one other question, do you have insurance for this sort of thing, or is it just accepted that this is high risk and you may lose everything that's on the rocket?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in regards to insurance, the customer who is launching their satellite with our propulsion system, they're the ones who get the insurance. But the biggest problem for them at the moment is that with those toxic propellants, the insurance is it's huge. So with our non-toxic propellants, the premiums are significantly less. The fueling logistics are way cheaper, and overall, we're saving our customers a lot of time and money.
Great. Thanks, guys. Well done.
I thought you'd ask if they needed an auditing app, Luke.
Well, I'm sure they're already using it, Leanne, but if not, they need to get on it quick smart. I ordered this, definitely the tool. I know SpaceX use it.
I don't think there is a rocket that can be launched into space without safety check. Thank you very much, Luke. And over to you, Carl. Do you have any question for the Valiant Space team?
Yeah, firstly, great pitch and wonderful to see a literal moonshot come out of UQ this year. So, well done, boys. I think you mentioned the non-toxic element a few times. So it sounds like, is that one of your key competitive advantages over, current ways of propulsion? Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. So it absolutely is one of our key advantages. So in the past, those non-toxic propellants have been what's been standard, and there hasn't been other alternatives to those propulsion systems, and that's why these non-toxic thrusters are so important. In the past, it's been okay for massive budgets of, those big Apollo-like missions to be able to afford the expenses involved with that. But when we're talking about commercializing space, we really need to reduce those costs. And so that's what we're doing with our non-toxic thrusters.
Yeah, cool. And a follow-on question, you mentioned you're raising 500K. All I know about space is it's very expensive, and you look at what like the SpaceX's and the Blue Origins have gone through in capital over the last few years. It's not a small number. So I assume that starts the party. So what's your 500K? What's your use of funds? And how much more cash will you need? If your view is to get one of these on the moon, I assume there's some fairly big capital requirements that come down the pipe.
Yeah, thanks for that, Carl. So to answer your question, the amount of money we're using at the moment, so the $500,000 we're asking for, that's going towards our prototype thrusters, which we're going to launch to space by next year. And that's going to take us to the point where we can start securing those first customers. Beyond that, you're right, space is expensive. But we're not building satellites or big launch vehicles here. We're focusing first on getting into the market with small components, which are critical to every space mission. So we're looking beyond now to probably raise on the order of 15 to 20 million down the track for these thrusters. But as we grow as a company, our ambitions will grow towards the moon and will require more funding down the track.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carl, for your question. And now a question from the audience. And the question to you, Valiant Space, is what do you see are the 3 key risks to your venture?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with any space company, tech development, it takes time. And there's a lot of things on the way that can go wrong. On top of that as well, another risk is credibility and gaining your customer confidence in the space industry. That's really important. For us, we're mitigating those risks by taking an incremental engineering approach to getting our thrusters validated, and that's why we've partnered with the industry leaders here in Australia to launch them into space next year. As well, that's going to allow us to gain that customer credibility and have those thrusters validated so that it's easier for our customers to choose us when they think of propulsion.
Fantastic. So give it up for the Valiant Space team. Okay, next pitch. Second pitch, we have Fizzy Squeeze. And Lissy Shandwin is the founder and CEO of Fizzy Squeeze. Lissy was born in the UK, lived in South Africa, and then moved to Australia. Lissy is a director of Physio One, a Pilates instructor, and a physiotherapist specializing in women's health. Give it up for Lissy.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Lissy, and I'm a physiotherapist in women's health and a director of a physio clinic. Today I'm here to talk to you about a patient of mine who we'll refer to as Jane. Jane was a young, healthy, active female who did high-intensity workouts every week. Jane didn't know exactly when her bladder leakage first began to occur, and she wasn't currently aware of when it happened. But she knew by the end of her workout that her bladder had leaked significantly. Now, Jane is not alone. 1 in 4 females will experience bladder leakage at some point in their life. So we utilised the industry current methods of treatment. Physiotherapy, we swapped her high impact sessions for low intensity workouts, and pelvic floor muscle strengthening, where we made the most of smart biofeedback tools. Jane's bladder leakage began to improve, so we decided that it was okay for her to return to her workouts. However, it was only a matter of time before her bladder leakage began to worsen. And sadly, Jane saw no other option than to stop her favourite exercise for good. As women's health clinicians, we see this devastating cycle unfold time and time again, where we have poor monitoring, leading to generic treatment and often resulting in females stopping their exercise altogether. And we all know the impact this has on mental and physical well-being, where poor physical health and increased weight gain is only a predisposing factor for worsened bladder leakage. So we developed Fizzy Squeeze, a non-invasive, smart wearable device which is worn during exercise. Fizzy Squeeze provides real-time feedback, objective monitoring and tracking, and tailored functional training. It reduces the time, the cost, and improves efficiency for the end user. Our key competitors in the industry involve current assessment and treatment tools which merely aid or facilitate pelvic floor muscle strengthening. What the industry lacks is an integrated solution of assessment through to treatment through to functional return to exercise. Worldwide, we are looking at a market of over 60 million active females like Jane living with bladder leakage. And the global urinary incontinence market for devices alone is expected to reach $3.5 billion by 2023. Our team has undergone extensive market research and validation with hundreds of patients and participants. We have finalized our technical validation prototype and are entering our data acquisition phase and live patient testing. In Q2 of 2021, we'll go live with our early adopters and our first generation monitoring device. Now, this will be available to allied health professionals and will help to improve patient clinical outcomes. In the second half of 2022, we'll go live with our full solution. Our second generation device will now include the tailored training, and this will be usable without clinicians. Our first generation involves an in-product purchase, and this will be made available directly through the allied health professionals to reach our users. Our second generation device will now be available directly online for the consumer, and this will also involve a software subscription model. This will save time, improve efficiency, and save users thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses. Our core team is diverse. It currently involves myself as founder, David as our leading software engineer, Francis as our senior advisor with over 20 years of clinical experience, Dr. Roma Forbes, head of UQ Clinic Research, and Chris, our technical advisor and electronics engineer with enormous experience in taking startup products to market. We will be going for funding early next year. If you would like to find out more, please connect with us via LinkedIn or via email. Or if you know of any females like Jane and the 60 million other women living with bladder leakage, please ask them to reach out and we'd love to connect. Thank you.
It is really great to have Lissy here with us live on the stage.
Hi everyone.
So now what we're going to do is cross to the judges and see what questions they have for Lissy. So I can see Carl up there now. Let's start with Carl. What's your question for Lissy, Carl?
Hey, I think firstly, Lizzie, well done. It seems like you've progressed heaps since earlier in the year, so that's great to see the progress. I think let's start on the addressable market. I mean, obviously, if half the planet is female and you're talking about 1 in 4, this is a ginormous addressable market. So do you want to talk a bit more about that in terms of how much of that you think is obtainable?
Absolutely. Thank you for a great question, Carl. So I guess, yes, just to clarify, we're looking at 1 in 4 females who will experience bladder leakage at some point in their life. For our total addressable market, we came to those numbers with the 60 million worldwide based on Australian statistics. So we're looking at 4.2 million Australians living with bladder leakage between the age of 15 and 65 years of age. So we've then 80% of that is females, and we've then multiplied that by appropriate numbers to come up with that worldwide figure.
Yeah, wow, that's big. And what's your revenue model? Are you selling the device, and is there a subscription component as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I guess to answer that question, this will be a price point, and a further amount of validation will be required as we enter our data acquisition phase and we start to get that feedback from users on the product. But initially we plan on going live with the one-off product purchase and then also bringing in the software subscription model on a monthly subscription base. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions. How about we throw it to Leanne? Do you want to shoot your question at Lissy?
Great presentation. I love just how you brought the message across. It was very compelling from where I sat. Always difficult when we're living in a digital world today. Talk a little bit about how you see partnerships, or if you see them at all. We know that Apple, of course, are collecting a significant amount of health data, but they're certainly not collecting this type of data. Have you thought about partnerships, and if so, what's your thinking?
Absolutely. Thank you, Leanne. So it's definitely, strategic partnerships is going to be a large component of when we do go live with our own product. This is important from our industry expertise. We are working towards building trust and the partnerships with health clinicians along with industry bodies. But as you mentioned, Apple is, and obviously other companies are collecting different types of data, but this type of data that we're working towards acquiring hasn't been collected before. So there would be potential and future opportunities for it to be applied in different settings.
And just one more question. Is there, rather than it just being a detection, is there a preventative component to what you're doing?
Definitely down on our runway, because ultimately if we can acquire data which hasn't been acquired before, integrating that with our software solution, we're bringing together the full solution. So the full treatment component, from the assessment through to the treatment and through to that functional return to exercise. So in collecting that data, yes, we will be able to work towards predictive models in the future and hopefully towards preventing a certain extent of this.
Thanks, Leanne. Also,
thank you,
really
Leanne.
Great questions. So last but not least, Luke, let us know, what's your question?
Thanks, Sam. Congrats, Lizzie. It's a great presentation. You really feel your energy coming through, and it's an innovative area that I think a lot of people can benefit from, obviously. But I'm curious, what kind of approvals will be needed to enter the different markets? Have you gone and looked at any of the requirements that vary from country to country in the world?
Thanks for that great question. Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's different, I think most of us are probably aware of the Therapeutic Goods Association, the TGA versus the FDA overseas. We will not be going for, we will go for any level of clearance that we believe is applicable and that we need to ensure the safety of our hardware and our product. But ultimately, we would like to avoid clinical trials and going down that avenue if possible. So the way that we're going to position it to building our authority and building our credibility with health professionals and building that trust of our patients, we don't believe it will be necessary to go down the full approval route at this point in time. But keeping in mind, we are open to, obviously, as we go through our data acquisition phases, if any changes do need to be made.
Great. And final question, what's the next big challenge for you in taking this to market? What's the next step for you from here?
Sorry, just to clarify your question, the next best step or biggest challenge?
What's the next challenge that you need to overcome? What's the next thing you're focused on in order to take this further?
Absolutely. So biggest challenge, getting our user uptake. So we want to work and build that trust, and in the next 6 months, that's our goal, to work with the health clinicians, building our trust into that end consumer and our users, and that's going to be our ultimate goal, getting that conversion and working together in that sense.
Terrific. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Luke. How great is Lissy? But there is still one more question from the audience. So the audience question that we're throwing at you tonight, can males become incontinent, and what does bladder leakage feel like for them?
Great question for whoever asked that. Thank you for the question, actually. Yes, absolutely. Men can also experience bladder incontinence. It's definitely a much lower percentage and rate than females experience. You're looking at around 10 to 15% for most men. And I personally couldn't tell you what bladder leakage feels like from experience, but I can tell you from the patients that we see day in, day out living with bladder leakage, it has enormous impact on the psychosocial aspects, relationships, the whole quality of life is affected. So it's definitely something which we all need to work towards bettering.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you.
And now we move on to our next pitch, which is Rapid Check-In with founders Isabel Fleming and Chris Dwyer. Chris will be pitching tonight. Chris loves starting things. Having started his first business at 22, he went on to found another 2 companies before launching his latest startup, Rapid Check-In. With 30 years of fintech experience and leading the development of specialist software for some of the largest financial service companies around the world, his experience provided him with the ability to pivot during COVID and design and develop technology to help venues deploy an effective contact tracing solution. Give it up for Chris.
Hi, my name's Chris Dwyer and I've got 30 years experience in building fintech solutions. And today I want to talk to you about Robert. Robert runs a small successful restaurant. Unfortunately, he's been closed for the last 3-4 months. He now wants to reopen, but unfortunately now his business is suffering, his turnover is down, and he's finding that he now has to start filling in all these pieces of paper for his customers just to turn up. We all know what it's like to turn up to a restaurant and have that presented to you. You've got a single solitary pen to write down your name, email on a piece of paper that's sitting in front of everyone else in the restaurant. Robert's main problem is that he got a contact from the Queensland Health Department. He had to go and retrieve the contact details of every customer that was in his restaurant on a particular date. It took his staff member about 2 hours to cut through all the boxes of paper to find around about 75 people in the restaurant that time. He then handed that data over to the Queensland Health Department. 2 days later, got another one. He realised he couldn't do it. He couldn't be bothered, but he wants to open his restaurant. And because of that, we've created Restaurant Roll. A single click check-in, contactless, to allow every customer to scan in when they turn up at the venue. It allows for white label and upselling of the customer at the end of the check-in. And the best thing of all is when Robert does get a contact from Queensland Health next time, he gets a single report that gets printed out, which contains first level and second level. Oh, my battery's flat. My batteries are flat. Thank you. First level and second level contact details of every customer in that restaurant at that time. He can just send that report off to whoever has asked for it. But Robert is not alone. There are more than 4 million restaurants and venues like him in USA, in North America, in Europe. Working on a plan of $15 per month, it turns out that it's less than cost of paper for most of these venues. It turns our market value, our total market, into $700 million worth. And it works. We've had 15 sites using this system, and over the last 6 weeks, we've had 9,000 scans. So the system works. Customers are giving great feedback to these venues who are running this system. They know they can walk in and they don't have to touch that pen that's just got that feeling that 35 other people have touched it. And also they're not having to write their names and details on pieces of paper. Robert was using paper. Time consuming, too hard to use for him. He could have used his POS supplies, he could have used an in-house solution, but both of those don't offer the breadth of service that we can give them. So far we've done our MVP, we've moved on to a live trial, as we've seen with 15 sites, and we're now looking for global expansion and then working towards our API integration, which will give global health agencies access to consolidated data across multiple venues. As I said, I've had 30 years experience in building fintech systems, and Izzy has got this amazing ability to look at a functional design and make something just work. We are looking for a stellar marketing guru who wants to join us to sit in the middle of that photo. So there are 4 million Roberts left out there. So we are looking today for people who've got contacts in Europe and North America to looking to move this system into large franchises, large venues, to stop the pandemic before it spreads any further. Thank you.
Fantastic, and we have Chris and Isabel here with us and to answer the judges' questions. And I have Luke here, so Luke, I'm going to go up to you. Do you have a question for Chris and Isabel?
Well done, guys, for pivoting so quick and being able to adapt to a problem that's emerged that no one saw coming. So that's great in itself. My question, you've got 15 sites today, so for this to really work well, it needs to be thousands of sites. So how do you go from 15 to thousands in a relatively short period of time?
Yeah, look, that's a good question, and that's always the most important thing for us to look at. Scale quickly is what we're after, which is where we're looking at pushing into, at the moment, Europe and South Korea. I had 15 meetings last week with North American restaurant venues and associations, and they were all negative. So North Americans don't take contact tracing too seriously. So our next path is Europe. What we need to find are large groups, large associations of restaurants or venues and associations who want to actually help their members with their contact tracing solutions to get rid of paper, basically.
Terrific. Thanks, guys. That's awesome.
Thank you, Luke. And Carl, do you have a question for the team?
Yeah, great pivot, guys. Obviously a bit different to what you started the program with, to where you ended up, but hey-ho, that's one of the good characteristics of being a great entrepreneur. I do have a question about the product, because I haven't been out that much since all the craziness started, but every time I have, it's been about 75% of places seem to have something that is digital. They all seem to be built on the back of POS. I know one recognized my credit card, so it seemed to be on Square. And I do take your point about North America. Obviously, with Liars being in the on-trade, we've got a lot of data to see what the venues are doing, and it does vary a lot country by country depending on policy response. But the larger groups you mentioned, they all very much have very integrated systems already, and there's been some quick pivots by some of the POS suppliers there. So just, I guess, two questions. One is, what's the longevity of this if the world changes, if there's a vaccine tomorrow? And who are your competitors in this space? Because this does seem like quite a lot of activity already.
Yeah, look, you are spot on with that. The two questions there, the COVID-19 vaccine, they're talking about that coming out, so that may sort of start to filter down. But without sounding like the Grim Reaper, I'm kind of betting on another one next year and the year after. There'll be always something sort of moving on through the world that's going to need some sort of contact tracing. And for our competitors, well, you're right, there's a lot of systems out there. Many of them I've seen have been built on Google Forms, which is not particularly scalable. The POS suppliers, they're like a walled garden. The benefit that we're actually building is independence between facilities and venues. So it's possible to do cross-venue matching for us. So one phone number can pull up all the locations that person's been in for the last 2 weeks. You can't get that with a particular software vendor, POS supplier, or Google Forms.
Right, so you're basically saying to try to create a platform-agnostic model that goes bigger than the sort of the data wall of a particular venue.
Yeah, spot on.
Cool.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Carl. And over to you, Leanne.
Can you just talk a little bit sort of nerdy or technical on how you're protecting privacy and data privacy? And if one of the aspirations is moving into Europe, of course, they have GDPR, which is a very different, data storage policy than what we have here. So how are you keeping up with cyber on the forefront of what you're building?
Yeah, look, different countries and their privacy policies, it's critical that we get on top of all that from day one. You're right with Europe, with GDPR. What we do is we make sure that we sanitize our database according to each local region. So for example, Australia's 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, the data is removed from the system. We can't go back and find it. The strongest point that we offer for the system here is that venues themselves cannot access the data. So the local waiter can't pull up all the contact details of every female patron who was in the restaurant for the last night. All they can see is that there were a certain number of people, and they get a hashed copy of their data if needed. So it's really good for security in that way. Did that answer your question?
When I heard hash, I thought maybe you were creeping towards blockchain there for a moment. Could it be true? Come on.
I would love to tell you that it is, but I'm not going to.
Thank you very much, Leanne. And last question from our audience to Chris and Isabel. The question is, how do you build defensibility around your model? How do you make that you can build a defensible model that other people can't sweep behind you and kind of take over the opportunity?
It comes down to speed of deploying it out into the network of venues. We're currently working with a couple of large sporting associations to get the check-ins through their venues done as quickly as possible. That's turned out to be a very major deal for us. So working with the peak bodies and getting them to recommend it down to each of their venues just means that each venue's got their own sort of gold standard. So we're working to meet that.
Fantastic. All right, give it up for Isabel and Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next pitch for the night is Koorin Organics. Now, Ian Ling and Kok Leong Chong are the founders of Koorin Organics. Previously, Ian was part of a special forces unit in the Singaporean Navy, president of UQ Singapore Student Society, and the founder of Mind the Gap. Leong was born in Malaysia. He is a biochemist specializing in DNA damage research and a black belt in Taekwondo. Give it up for Koorin Organics.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Ian, CEO and co-founder of Koorin Organics. This is a pair of classic wash denim jeans. It's considered a wardrobe staple and one we're all very familiar with, and they usually cost between $50 and $200. This pair, on the other hand, is a pair of raw denim. It is a premium material that's naturally dyed using indigo plants, which develops a fade over time in the same way that leather develops a patina, which gives them a personality of their own. A pair of raw denim jeans or jacket may cost anywhere between $2,000 and $2,000. Now, while they have far superior qualities as compared to standard denim, there is one major drawback. The color of these jeans fade prematurely if you put them into the washing machine. Dry cleaning isn't a solution as well, as it weakens the fabric over time. And because of that, people who spend over $1,000 on denim end up putting the jeans in the freezer right next to the frozen peas. They do that to remove the odors, and until today, there is no real solution to the problem. Koorin has developed the world's first soap-free raw denim detergent. With Koorin, you don't even need a washing machine. You just need to soak it for 15 minutes before rinsing, and you have a clean and fresh-smelling pair of jeans. On top of that, it is also antibacterial, biodegradable, and non-toxic. As the solution dissolves in water, the redox reaction and carboxylation that occurs remove everyday stains easily, while deodorizing odor molecules into a neutral, odor-free state. But don't just take our word for it. Farm is a renowned denim expert, and after trying our product, he absolutely loved it. And he's one of the first retailers that's going to stock our very first batch. On top of that, we are also doing independent testing to validate what we and Farmy say in our product. In 2020, more than 2 million pairs of premium denim is sold around the world with no real way of washing them. And this number is growing by 6.86% every year. We plan to have our products stocked at luxury retailers who sell raw denim. At the point of sale, they will offer customers our product as well, which retails at $60 for a pack of 3 or $150 for a pack of 10. And when they run out, you can either go back to the retailers or purchase our product online at a subscription fee of $150 per year. Our wholesale price to retailers is 50% of the recommended retail price. We are starting from Australian retailers, then moving on to Singapore, Tokyo, Milan, and Paris. In 2019, we embarked on a journey of research into the biochemical properties of detergents. This year, we achieved proof of concept, produce an MVP, and we're currently signing production contracts with retailers that's scheduled to launch on Christmas Day. Next year, we plan to expand our global retail footprint. Going into 2022, we have a lineup of sustainable and innovative detergent solutions. Denim is just the beginning. Think about delicate silk garments, wool or lycra. What used to be dry clean only can now be washed easily without needing a washing machine. This is a team that will get you there. It is comprised of myself as CEO and co-founder, and this is my second startup. Dr. Chong Kok Leong is my co-founder and CTO with a PhD in biochemistry. With Leong as our biochemist, we have absolute control over in-house production with research-backed processes. We are further supported by Kim Gilliam, who is an expert in the commercialization of biomedical products, and Dr. Kelvin Kwan, who has decades of experience in trademark and IP law. We are currently raising $200,000 in the form of a convertible note to grow our sales and marketing as well as operations teams. This will give us 12 months of runway to bring our product to market to 10 retail partners to reach a revenue of $500,000 by the end of next year. If there are any investors in the audience who would like to speak with us further, please reach out to us via UQ Ventures or contact at KoorinOrganics.com. Thank you for listening.
I don't know about you, but I certainly learnt a new life hack just then, particularly when travelling, that I can in fact put my smelly jeans in the freezer and wear them again. So I am joined on the stage by Ian and Leong. Welcome, Koorin Organics. And yes, I'm very much looking forward to the judges' questions. So this time I'm going to throw it to Luke to be the first to ask these guys a question.
Thanks, Sam. Well done, guys. Good pitch. There's obviously a problem that is very relatable for all of us. I'm wearing jeans right now that could probably benefit from your product, so that's great. Have you had any discussions with garment manufacturers? You mentioned sort of the retail points, but it seems like a no-brainer. Like, is there any interest from the actual manufacturers themselves in working with you on this?
Right, that is a very great question, Luke. Now, the interesting thing about Koorin Organics is we're not just a retailer, we are our own manufacturers. And Leong, my co-founder, he brings a lot of technical expertise as our resident biochemist, and that gives us absolute control over our in-house production, and we can control the quality of what we're putting out, and instead of outsourcing it to other countries.
Okay, so you wouldn't think of a licensing model or anything like that where other manufacturers would be able to use the technology? You're fixed on taking it to the market yourselves, is that right?
That's a great question, Luke. And I think that while there are strengths in outsourcing production, I think that the Made in Australia brand is a very credible and trustworthy brand. It is not to say that we will not at some point license our products to be manufactured overseas. However, this might look like in the form of a white label for big boutique brands like Gucci or LVMH who wants to have their own branding on their products.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Wish you all the best.
Thanks, Luke. And now let's chuck it to Leanne to see what question she has for the guy.
So I work quite deeply in the luxury goods space with the names that you just mentioned, Gucci and Alexander McQueen and many other brands. They're increasingly concerned about the chemicals and sustainability and the effect on planet. So what types of insights, without giving away your intellectual property, can you give to the work that you're doing in this space?
A very good question, especially during this period of everyone is going towards a more sustainable approach of things. So the good thing about us, like what Ian mentioned, is that we are producing everything in-house. So we specifically handpicked and curate every single ingredient that's put into it. So we make sure that the ingredients that we used are actually selected from specific manufacturers which have eco certification on it, and that is robustly tested. And from that on, then we basically mixed everything in-house as well, and we run our own test at the end of it to make sure that everything passes a stringent test. And apart from that, we are planning also to outsource the testing to other certification organizations as well, to make sure that everything that we produce is of top-notch quality.
So my other question might be completely inappropriate, but Sam, you'd be used to me asking these types of questions. So I'm on Morton Island today, and on Monday I enjoyed a bucket of prawns and a heap of oysters, and I put the shells in the freezer, and of course that doesn't stink. But guaranteed, if I take those prawns out in about a day and I defrost them from the freezer, that smell is going to be pungent. Is the same too going to happen to my jeans after they come out of the freezer?
That is an excellent question, and it's an answer that the denim community still hasn't had a solution to. And the best solution that they could think of is to chuck them into the freezer. Now, while it's not sustainable, it does remove a certain amount of odor. But as we mentioned in the pitch earlier, now we have a way of doing your washing without even needing a washing machine, which has the agitation effects. And denim really is just the beginning.
I certainly was entertained by the idea that people with $1,000 pair of jeans were putting them in the freezer to get them clean. I thought, that's funny. So now I'm just going to throw to our audience question.
Hey, you forgot me.
Oh, sorry, Carl. I'm getting carried away with myself. Carl.
Momentum.
Momentum, I know. I'm just like...
Well, I learned you can put jeans in the freezer. I didn't know that was possible, just like you. But hey, I really like where this product's going and some of the potential. I buy the thesis on high-end garments that people are very particular with how they wash. And I think your addressable market, like you said, with Kagara jeans, people are wearing less suits. I think post-COVID, you'll have a lot more casual wear, but people still want to look good, right? So there's definitely that. I strongly recommend you to think of both B2C and B2B2C. Like Luke said before, I think where he was going with his question is the best thing you could do is get some deals, channel deals, whether it's your brand or not. I do think building your own brand's good, but you want the luxury brands to distribute this, because if you have a Xenia or like an LVMH, if they start to recommend your product at a store or product level, you will explode, right? Now, those deals take time. So I definitely think that B2C, like there is a very large, particularly in the era of Instagram, right, where people do, it's all about being seen, particularly in Asia. So if you can build that B2C community around it, it's big. But my question here is, where does this go with other garments? Because if you start to think of high value garments that have the same problem, I'm thinking expensive cycling kit. You mentioned Lycra. I mean, there has been an explosion in fitness over COVID, right? If you can start to get into that bigger addressable market, that 2.2 million pairs of jeans becomes 20 or 50 million very quickly. How quickly can you bring a similar concept for high-end garments, be that, performance Lycra, be that, nice dry clean only products, dresses, etc. Is that a quick thing, and how much money do you need to get there?
Right, and you are absolutely right, Carl. Even in the dive suit industry, where they originally have to just rinse it with water, there's no soaps and you can't chuck into the washing machine. It's a growing market at $400 million this year, and it's expected to grow by 5% every year until 2026. And with active wear such as expensive Lycra or dive suits, or even your Italian wool suits when you go traveling, we have solutions for this. But denim really is the core of where we are starting. Going into 2022, we have a whole lineup of sustainable and innovative detergent solutions, like we mentioned earlier. And so we already are testing our Lycra wash, just to give you a little bit of a teaser. But that is really where we see our brand start to grow into different customer segments.
Yeah, cool. And how much money do you need again?
We're looking to raise $200,000 in this first round to grow our sales and marketing as well as our distribution teams.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Carl. Remember you. And the last question from the audience, now that we've had Carl. What's your go-to-market? How do you find customers who know about raw denim? This is a great question. I asked them this question actually like weeks ago.
Great question, audience. And our go-to-market strategy is simple yet complex at the same time. There's a two-pronged approach. One is a sales strategy. Our sales strategy is to go through retailers. While we are obsessed with our end users, we understand that consumers are far and in between, and they are very different from each other. And so where we are going with it is going directly to luxury retailers who sell raw denim, in the same way that you would buy a sneaker cleaner when you buy a pair of shoes. On the marketing side of things, we understand that as a consumer brand, our consumers are extremely smart and they won't buy a raw denim product just because of functionality or price. it takes really years to build that brand trust and credibility. And so as a first mover in our product, we have already made the steps to contact our retailers, our subject matter experts, our consumers, to find out what the pain points are and what they're looking for in the products. And so we are already ahead of the game. And so that gives us a barrier of entry to the other competitors who are looking to enter this industry as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ian and Leon. I feel like everyone is my favourite. You're my favourite. Everyone is my favourite. That was great. So we have our last pitch for this evening. Open Inductions. Co-founders Brian, Mohammed and Rizal Evans. Rizal will be pitching tonight. When Rizal was a little boy, his grandfather would often take him to the local aviation museum. This is where Rizal's love of everything aviation began. Having spent the first 18 years of his life in Indonesia, once landing in Australia, Rizal became a qualified industrial designer and went on the journey of rethinking jet engines by not just creating something new, but reusing certain technologies and making them better. Let's give it up for Rizal.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rizal Evans. I am the CEO and founder of Open Inductions, and this is our hybrid answer. $170 billion is how much the aviation industry spends on fuel every year. Let me repeat that, $170 billion. This has got to change. This is the Magni X, a fully electric aircraft developed in the Gold Coast. It has successfully carried 9 people for a maximum range of 500 kilometers. And this is the best electric aircraft there is. Making a commercial aircraft fully electric is impossible because the motors are too big to fit with current aircraft designs, and batteries are too heavy, and it won't even let the aircraft lift the ground. Now, our solution is a hybrid electric engine that uses existing fuel instead of batteries. As a result, we are able to retrofit our engines in current aircrafts. Now, to accomplish this, we had to redesign the induction motor. The induction motor was created by Nikola Tesla 143 years ago, and the fundamental design has not changed since then, and that is until Open Inductions has made a change. The current induction motor works by using electricity to rotate a shaft, which then connects to a fan. But our design uses electricity to directly rotate the fan. As such, we are able to scale it up, customize it, and fit it to current aircraft designs. As a result, the airliners will be saving 40% of fuel compared to the current engines. As such, the same aircraft can fly from A to B with less fuel or increase its maximum flight range by a substantial amount. And if the airliners were to use our engines, they could save over $100 billion just in fuel. And I know this sounds pretty crazy. 3 Brisbane guys taking on the aviation giants such as GE or Rolls-Royce. Sounds impossible, but it has been done by Ralph Surich from Perth, who, instead of competing against the automotive giants, he licensed his orbital engine to them. And following his playbook, we will not be competing against GE or Rolls-Royce, we will be licensing our engines to them. And from there, we will use it for alternative applications such as large ventilation fans that are used in the mining and the industrial areas. And all this started in March this year when we made our proof of concept, which is also the world's first ever 3D printed induction motor, which is then followed by a provisional patent in April, and we are now currently finishing off our small scale engine. From there, we are looking to license our IP by 2021, and eventually move on to other industries and make better things. We are able to do this because we are a team of young engineers passionate about the aviation industry and make a change, surrounded by a team of strong advisors with a wealth of experience and knowledge including the former director of Siemens in Southeast Asia and the former director of Garuda Maintenance Facility, Indonesia. And today, we are seeking to raise $750,000 in exchange for convertible notes so we can continue with international patenting, drafting of licensing agreements, and further development on the product. With your help, and with the help of my co-founders, Mohammed and Brian, together, we will make aviation great again.
In real life, it is pretty impressive. So we have the Open Inductions team on the stage with us, Mohammed, Rizal, and Brian. And we're going to cross to the judges. We're going to start with Carl this time. And yeah, let them shoot their questions away at the team.
Hey, well done, guys. It looks like what you had in renders, you've now got built, which is super cool. So even if it's not a fully fledged operating beast yet, I think it's an interesting time, right? Because obviously aviation, if there was a loser in the COVID war, it's definitely those guys. And they're probably going to be thinking about margins in a big way. So it's probably not a bad time to have a conversation. But talk me through the regulatory piece of this, because assuming your invention works, which I'm sure the physics make perfect sense on, what's the process for getting this like FAA? I assume it has to go through type certification and all that sort of stuff. Is that a big expensive process, or because you're retrofitting, is that easier because the type certification happens at an aircraft level?
Thanks for the question. That's a good one. So we are a very challenging industry. The regulation is quite stringent. And safety is the number one priority. And this stifles innovation, and given also the case that the industry is dominated by giant companies. But we are in the field, and we have started.
And in terms of regulations, every country has its own set of regulations, but it will be a challenging process, and that is why we're not going to see our engine on an airplane wing until the next 10 years. So it will be a time-consuming process. That's all I can say.
But is it something you could work? So you own the patents for this, right? Like this is your IP. So is it something you could work collaboratively with, say, a GE or Rolls-Royce that are making these existing engines, and can they potentially come in as a funding partner?
Yes, that is actually our plan. That is exactly what we're trying to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Carl. I'll cross over to Luke now, if you want to shoot a question at the team.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, guys, well done. I understand it can be quite nerve-wracking sometimes doing these presentations, so you're doing a great job, and you definitely conveyed the story and the message. So don't beat yourselves up. This is a tough situation. But the Rolls-Royce and GE now have gone to leasing by the hour model with aircraft engines, as opposed to airlines owning their own engines, and so they can monitor their engines all in real time and that sort of thing through their telemetry that's on board. What type of telemetry would be required to be able to monitor the health of these, and what kind of servicing benefits do you think that would come from it as well compared to the conventional engines?
That is a very good question. First and foremost, because we are creating something new, we will actually have to create new safety standards with how these electric motors are designed. But when compared to the current engines, the maintenance will probably be the same, but we will need an additional member, primarily an electrical engineer that has experience with electric motors. But besides that, we are not really changing anything, as we are still powering our engines with existing fuel, primarily with generators.
Cool. Well done, guys. It's a great area to be tackling, and I think if you can also work on a faster engine so that we can get around the world quicker when all this is over. That'd be great too.
Very good. And Leanne, over to you.
You know, we have electric vehicles, flying cars. Who knows what's next with drones? The type of work that you're doing now, can it be miniaturized in a rising industry where, let's say, the giants don't necessarily have the monopolistic control? And is there a way to think about, people movement drones as a prime example could be a rising industry that you could captivate quite rapidly? Or is it constrained to the industry you've chosen?
That is a good question, but the thing is we can't really use it for small scale application. It wouldn't be really more like worth it, because this has specifically been designed to combat the need for larger motors that commercial airliners need, that needs more power. But for drones that don't really require that much power, it would not be beneficial or ideal to use our product.
I mean, there's a large danger in what you're, in the position that you're in now, right? An international patent is only good as its defensibility, and you have to afford to defend it. So you're in a really precarious time to sort of fund up a patent before you're able to pretty much sort of attack the market. And you've got 5 major giants there that pretty much could, they've got pretty big, deep pockets to enable R&D to conceptualize where you're going with this product and pretty much reverse engineer. So how do you think about defensibility in what you're doing? Because patents won't give it to you.
That is true, but at the same time, these big companies work really slow. So by the time they're at their first iteration and reverse engineering our engine, we've already moved on to the second iteration and continuously improving it. Because of our small and agile team, we can continuously improve it and add more additional patents to support our main one.
I agree. Governments and big companies, they do the same speed.
Awesome. Now we're going to chuck it to the audience question. Last audience question of the night. I like it. This seems like a no-brainer. Why hasn't anyone else done this yet?
It's an excellent question. Well, if you think about it, why not? Well, the industry that we have chosen, we know is actually very competitive. What we have done is something that no one has thought on the last 140 years. Well, we got the idea, we just decided to do it. We are not reinventing anything, we are just finding a smart way to do something more efficient. We are just trying to do is just, create a change. Simple as that.
Well, thank you, Open Inductions. Great pitch, and yes, good luck for tonight. That is the end of our pitches for this evening. And we're now going to open it up to you, the audience out there who have been watching, to cast your vote for the pitch tonight that was your favourite. So what we're doing right now is we're posting on the YouTube live video that you were watching. There'll be a link in the description, and there'll be also a link posted in the chat. Go find that link and click on it. You're able to cast one vote for a startup that you would give $50,000 to if you could. So you've got a couple of minutes to do that, and while you're doing that, Ran is going to ask our judges to tell us who was their runner-up and who was their winner and why. And at the end of that, there will be a winner soon.
Thank you, Sam.
No worries.
Okay, so over to our judges, and I have Carl on the screen here in front of me. So Carl, I'm going to start with you, so I'll just explain it. I'm going to ask you first about who's your runner-up and without any explanation why. And then the next question would be who would be the team you would have awarded $50,000 to. And we would like to also know why. Why did you choose that team? So that would be the question to each one of you. So I'll start with Carl. Who would be your runner-up out of our teams here tonight?
Right, difficult because all the teams did really well with their pitches. My runner-up would be Lizzie at Fizzy Squeeze. And my, if I had the magic 50K check, I would give it to Koorin Organics. I actually think that there's a much bigger growing market there, and I think if they can get close to some of the fashion houses, luxury is growing like a weed, and you know, it's not a throwaway pair of $20 jeans, right? So I think if they get their distribution strategy right, I would definitely think that there's a winner there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Carl. And the same question over to you, Leanne. Leanne, who would be your runner-up from the night?
I would say Rapid Check-In for me, because I think that they've got you know, a burning house moment right now with everyone that's scrambling towards enabling check-in facilities. They do have a challenge on the back end of that, of course, particularly if their aspirations is growth into Europe. I think is a lot more difficult than just simply, you know, running 10 or 15 meetings online. I would also agree with Carl. The final run for me would be Koorin Organics. I think if they can tap into the luxury goods space and do it well, I think they've got a great opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Leanne. So we have 6 points here for Koorin Organics, which is currently at the lead. So thank you very much. So again, the runner-up gets 1 point from each judge, and the winner from each judge, or the top choice for each judge, gets 3 points. Over to you, Luke. Who would be your runner-up?
My runner-up was Valiant Space. I think they're a great team, and it was a pretty tough choice, I think, between a few of them. I actually had to try and tweak my scores a bit here because it was so close between a few of them. So well done to everybody. Yeah, just in terms of readiness to market and the opportunity being so great and the likelihood to be able to act on that fairly quickly, my first place went to Koorin Organics as well.
Oh wow, fantastic! So thank you very much. So that's definitely all judges agree on the top spot.
Yes, so it's going to be a big surprise. It's neck and neck for who the winner's going to be. So everybody stay tuned for that.
We might need to work out the numbers.
But I am very interested in who the audience has chosen as their number one. So we will let you know who the audience kind of said as well at the end of all of this. But the polling is now closed. So thank you for those who jumped in and did that. I'd like to actually introduce Mr. Nimrod Clayman, Head of UQ Ventures, to come up and join me. Nimrod oversees all programs and initiatives under the Ventures brand that provides students, alumni and staff with the skills needed to think creatively and make an impact. Welcome to the stage, Nimrod.
Thanks, Sam. So, hi Carl, good to see you. Leanne, Luke. So thank you, Sam. 2020 has sure been a challenging year, but seeing these amazing founders persist throughout the past 6 months, and we are all so proud. I feel really lucky because some of these founders, I know them as students, and now to see them here pitching, students and founder, it's quite amazing to see all the progress that they have done. Thanks. With that, it is my great pleasure to introduce Chidgzey. So Chidgzey is a UQ alumnus, recognized as one of the leading project and strategic portfolio planners. Shane has led a diverse career in some of the world's largest mining, engineering, and construction corporations, supporting the execution of landmark projects. In 2005, Shane launched his own consulting company, iPlan, to facilitate specialized planning and project management services across Australia. Since then, his company has expanded its global footprint to clients across the Asia-Pacific, UK, and European regions. This is the third annual Chidgzey Young Entrepreneur Prize, which has been generously supported by Shane to encourage budding UQ entrepreneurs to pursue their dreams. Shane is deeply passionate about empowering the younger generation to lead change and transform their ideas into successful innovations. Shane is also an active mentor to ilab startups and shares insights from his own entrepreneurial journey. Let's welcome Shane. So you have the envelope? Excellent. So founders, please come join me in the stage. So Shane, could you please do the honor of announcing our runner-up?
So the runner-up is Valiant Space. And the winner of this year's prize is Koorin Organics.
And just so you know, Koorin won. Oh, just so you know, Koorin won the audience vote too. So it was a landslide for Koorin Organics.
Excellent. Well done. So is the founders of Koorin Organics want to say some words?
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everybody here. And I want to dedicate this award to all of my ilab cohort colleagues. I think that I've learned so much from everyone. All of us did, and we are all winners here. I think I'm really excited, although ilab has come to a close, but I think that our friendship will stay on, and I hope to stay connected with everybody, no matter where we are in the world, and really wish all the best to everybody here. Thank you. Thank you.
Massive congratulations, an amazing job, Koorin Organics. You guys, you worked really, really hard the whole entire of those 6 months. You pivoted a few times and you really did smash it out of the park. So yeah, you deserve it. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And to all the other ilab founders, you all actually worked really, really hard and smashed it out of the park and are still standing after a pretty crazy 6 months. With some unexpected global pandemics thrown in there. So, you know, congratulations for making it here tonight and for this pitch. You all did an incredible job, and Ran and I are really, you know, proud to have been on that journey with you. So I just want to hand over to Jess to say some final words for this evening.
Thanks so much, Sam. I have the pleasure of giving the vote of thanks for this evening, and there are many, many people who contributed to the success of the 2020 ilab Accelerator program, as well as the pitch event this evening. So if you'll just indulge me for a few moments. First of all, thanks so much to our amazing judges, Carl, Luke and Leanne. We really appreciate you giving your time to challenge our founders, to test their ideas and where they're going to take their startups moving forward. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of the mentors, the guest speakers, to the supporters of the ilab Accelerator program. We've had dozens and dozens of people who have given up their time to support our founders, and the program would not be able to run without you. So thank you so much. To our amazing entrepreneurs in residence, Sam and Ran, I know that I speak for all of our founders and the ventures team when I say that this program is what it is because of the incredible support and dedication that you have. Ran, you need to come to the front here. These two have incredible businesses in their own right and have barely slept over the past couple of months, but every extra energy, drop of energy they've given to our ilab program, so enormous thanks. To the ventures team and to colleagues across global engagement entrepreneurship, lots of names, and I'm going to say them. Simone, Ruby, Josie, Sam, Carly, Jess, Nimrod, Rachel, Kylie, Cayetana, Thomas, Tia. I hope I haven't missed anybody. You guys are incredible. The passion for what we do comes from your energy and enthusiasm, and there's no way this event would have occurred without you. One special person I have not forgot you, Emily. Emily took on the role of the manager of ilab program this year under incredibly difficult circumstances, and she's hiding downstairs in a booth. Oh no, she's not. She snuck up. She's hiding in the back. Get out here. Emily, take a bow. Yeah. You are incredible. Well done. This has not been a normal year, and Emily has been exceptional in the way that she has risen to all of the challenges, has wrangled our entrepreneurs in residence, has wrangled our founders, has wrangled all of us to do what we need to do, so big congratulations. To all of our incredible founders here, we congratulate you and we wish you all the very best for the next stages of your startups. We can't wait to see how you grow and succeed. And finally, to all of you, to our audience who has stuck with us this evening, we appreciate your loyalty and your support, and know that much bigger things are ahead. I want you to know that we have enormous plans for 2021. So check out our website, send us an email, look at our socials, but by all means stay in touch, because the ilab Accelerator program is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow in the future. Thank you so much, everybody, and big congratulations.
In school, I was labeled and tagged by my parents and the school as a youth at risk. I had a very hard time growing up in a conservative Asian family where emphasis was really placed on academics. One day I asked myself, what did I want to do in life? Was that the life that I wanted, or was it something else? I decided then that I would pursue what I felt my purpose in life was. And I spent the next 5 years discovering that purpose.
I first met Ian when he came over from Singapore. We are looking for someone to move into a house. Something about Ian and myself, I guess, it just picks up very naturally, our whole conversation. And even 1 week into knowing one another, it feels like we have known one another. We've been mates for ages.
So Leong was my first housemate when I moved here. He was kind of like a bigger brother to me.
Ian came to me at 6 pitching the idea that he wanted to start a laundry product company.
I think it was when I discovered my purpose that it didn't matter who I was compared to. I think that comparison robbed me of joy, the joy that I could have had or things that I could have done if I didn't always compare myself to others. And I understand that we are all different. I have a lot of friends who are labeled handicapped. I have a very good friend, Rena, and she's the sweetest lady that I know, and she lost her eyesight in her prime years, and that destroyed her life. She lost her career overnight. She lost the chance to support her family, her elderly parents, and she was not accepted by society. When I met Rena and I heard her story, I tried to put myself in her shoes, and I tried to feel how she would be feeling, and it really compelled me to feel that if I'm not okay with it, then it's not okay. There's something I needed to change, and if I can't change it by myself, I'll build a team, I'll build a mission, a purpose to solve that issue.
I believe in a creator and a calling in life, and I felt like if there are things that's been given to you, you are meant to be a good steward to manage it. And to me, I couldn't see a better way of doing that than to impact the lives around me.
You ask me what the dream and the goal and the purpose of the founder is, it's really to build that business, that company that can fulfill our purpose. We're launching a few new products in the next few years. What it looks like is we're trying to penetrate the global denim market, but at the same time we're trying to remove the stigma from hiring workers with disabilities by hiring them, training them, empowering them, and showing the world that it's okay for a global business to hire someone who is not seen as productive, be productive, and be the best version of themselves. I believe that we're not created equal. Some of us have more and some of us have less. But we have more and less so that we can share and live in community. That's what I believe.